Good morning. This is James Donnelly with Safe Haven Insurance, your Medicare and health insurance safe place. I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine, Rosemarie. I do a lot of business networking, and I came across Rosemarie at a business event, and her story touched me. Her daughter is an active duty Army captain, and she does so much to help the vets. And I'm excited to have her here and tell you a little bit about what she does and how she put this big event together for veterans on Saturday, April 27th. So, Rosemarie, you have the mic.
Well, thank you so much, James. Yes, I am having a big event, so mark your calendars. It's this Saturday, April 27th, from 10 to 2 at SUNY Farmingdale in their Campus Center ballroom. And the event is it's a / veterans conference and job resource fair. And the reason that we put it together is I'm currently the president of the Long Island Bluestar Moms NY6 chapter, which encompasses Suffolk and parts of New York City. And when I became president, I had no idea how sad the role would be. From speaking to the other mothers and female caregivers and family members of those who serve or have served, every story seems to be sad. And so I felt doing nothing was not an option. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Long Island Bluestar Moms, we are a chapter of the national organization, Bluestar Mothers of America. They've been around since World War II, 6,000 members throughout the country, congressionally chartered, and it was established after World War II to kind of represent veterans and the military when their husbands and sons were busy off fighting wars and things like that.
Now, you said an interesting statistic which really stuck with me. So I was, born and raised in New York on Long Island, and you said something about Suffolk County. Suffolk County had the second highest population of veterans in the country?
Yes, people don't realize that Suffolk County and Long Island in general have one of the highest populations of veterans in the entire country.
I had no idea.
The highest in the state and one of the highest in the country.
Wow.
Which I had no idea as well. And part of the problem is, they're not wearing a uniform. So how would you know if someone's serving or is a veteran?
So your daughter is active duty military currently. She's a captain in the U.S. Army. That's amazing. Thank her for her service. Truly appreciate that. Now, Bluestar Moms, what is that organization about? That's for somebody who lost a child in
No, Bluestar means you have somebody in your family that served or has served. Gold Star is if you've lost someone in the military, and then silver is someone in your family has been wounded. So yeah, there's usually a lot of mix up between blue and gold. Nobody ever wants to be a gold star. Yes. or a silver star. So Blue Star just means someone in your family is either serving or has served. So my daughter, actually, a lot of people ask me, what service is your son in? And I correct them and say, no, she's an officer. And it's my daughter. 14% of the officers now are female. Oh. So the landscape of the military community is changing since they opened it up to all areas. There's no restrictions as far as females joining, and we've had some firsts in all of the different chapters of the military. I actually was surprised. My daughter went off to college. She went to SUNY Buffalo. Her name is Alexa, and when she came back, I asked her what the next step was after college, and she has a bachelor's in biology, and she surprisingly said she was joining the military. I was shocked because I never thought any of my children would join. So I tell people that maybe no one in your family is in the military right now, but one day maybe your child, your niece, your nephew, your grandchild may come up to you and say, I just enlisted in the Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Space Force. And so it was a shock. And the reason I wanted to do this conference is I felt that no one should have to ever say to themselves, what if? What if I had learned more? What if I had done more to help my child or my family member? Because honestly, serving the military comes with a lot of stresses.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And a lot of issues when they come back for some of the veterans.
Now, obviously, Alexa is a very strong woman, and I see where she gets it from her mom, who is definitely persistent and very strong in her beliefs. Now, you had said an interesting statistic, which was actually quite sickening. You said something about veteran suicide when they come home from active duty military service, that there was some crazy statistic that you spoke about. Could you tell us about that?
The number of, for years we've heard 22 a day. There was a marketing campaign started by an organization years ago, and it's actually more than that today. And honestly, if it's one, it's too many.
Agree.
And again, listening to the other moms in our group, there are plenty of, even during service, attempted suicides. People whose children, like my daughter might be one that's watching the person that's on suicide watch. And of course, those that come back and then commit suicide. And it's difficult for people to wrap their head around it, because a lot of them come back and they look perfectly fine, and they'll tell you they're perfectly fine. Just like if I had a bad day, I would tell you I'm having a perfectly fine day. Most people aren't willing to share the negatives. I try to be upbeat, so I don't want to share burdens on other people. But they carry a lot of weight from the experiences that they have. I always say, to try to make people understand, is if you're 18 years old and you enlisted, and your job is to stand post that day, and your fellow soldiers, airmen, sailors are sleeping in barracks, and there's a child coming towards you with a backpack, what's in the backpack? You're 18 years old, you have very little life experience other than the training the military has provided, which we have the most elite military in the world. They're making life and death decisions in an instant. And even if they never have to shoot, the fact that they may never forget that child's face for the rest of their life, it can be haunting.
Oh, definitely.
And then, it's kind of like putting a pebble in your backpack. So that's one instant, and then there's another instant. And then after a while, you're carrying all this weight with you until one day, your own child might be walking through the door wearing a backpack, and it brings you right back. So that's, kind of what post-traumatic stress and moral injury look like. And again, you may never ever had to shoot. It's just that you're putting in really stressful situations, and the enemy's not wearing a uniform anymore. So the enemy is everyone. You can't tell if they're friend or foe. So that's a lot of stress. I equate it to be similar to being a police officer. You're wearing a uniform and you're a target for some bad people, right? Mm. So you're always looking over your shoulder. So I think there's a element of distrust.
I totally see where you're coming from, and I've seen it firsthand. I have family members that were, in Vietnam, and when they came home, they never discussed what happened over there, and they just carried that burden. And eventually, a lot of these veterans, they self-medicate, whether it's alcoholism or drug abuse, and it really affects them, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to go to the VFW. They don't want to go to the VA. So these are all things that we need to be cognitive of. I know you didn't say the number just now, but you said it used to be 22 a day, but it's more like 40 a day, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
veteran suicide?
That's what's, some of the people that I've spoken to are estimating.
It's really a horrific number. Now here, these young men and women are serving our country and keeping us safe and protecting us, and they come home and they don't know how to assimilate, and they're, instead of, some turn to substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drug addiction, and others just choose to take their life, which is very sad. Where do you feel that the government and or society is falling short on awareness for veteran suicide, and what can we do to help our veterans assimilate and just, be there for them?
Well, the reality is that as a government, we spend a lot of time and effort to prepare our children for war. And I say our children, I mean our military sons and daughters, and very little to help them reintegrate back into society. So if you were 17, 18 years old when you enlisted, it was your first job. Do you know how to write a resume? Have you ever done any financial literacy? Have you ever done practice interviews? Do you know how your military service translate into a civilian job? I don't know. If you're a military ballistics expert, how does that translate into something? And so I don't think they're really given some of the skills to reintegrate, and then they come back and their friends have moved on. They have a different mindset. They have different hobbies. So I think there's a lot of isolation, and when you're isolated, you have a lot of time to think, and when you have a lot of time to think, you may think of the choices you've made in your life, and again, or the circumstances or the situations you've been in. So that's where maybe depression sets in. So I think the best thing to do is have resources for them when they get back. But, a lot of times they don't know what's available.
It's not like there's it's so
even
funny.
If they're given a handbook, I don't know if they keep it,
So, I can't imagine that there's no programs available for them, but it's just the fact that they don't know that those programs are available.
Honestly, I was a veteran advocate for years before my daughter, enlisted, and I didn't know
That's
about
amazing.
I didn't know about the Bluestar moms.
This is something you've been passionate about for forever.
Yes, I recently retired, but I worked for a national bank that was very VA centric. I did a lot of VA loans. A lot of my clients were veterans, so I kind of became engulfed in the veteran community. And actually, a lot of their stories are sad, and so I tried to do what I could do to help. I always say I don't have a lot of money, but I have my time and I have my talents. And if we each did a little bit, that would add up to, it would be cumulative, right? Many hands make light work. So I worked on a project, and in 2019, we gave away a mortgage-free home to a Purple Heart recipient.
That's amazing.
And so I was dealing with a lot of veteran organizations, speaking at a lot of veteran events, and I'm still learning to this day that there's more and more resources out there. So I'm thinking, I've been doing this for 10 years and I don't know of all the resources.
In fact, I called you a couple of weeks ago for a question about a veteran, because I figured if anybody knew, it would be you. And
Right.
We came across the dead end, and then I had to look elsewhere for help. So,
Well, that's part of the reason for the collaboration is the conference is to collaborate and try to find out, get all the organizations under one roof so we can recommend each other. The Bluestar moms are willing to be an intermedium. So if you have a veteran that's in need, call us and we'll try to cut through the red tape. Because if you have post-traumatic stress, being on hold for 40 minutes is not fun.
That's more or less a new acronym, right? I mean, you've only started hearing that within the last 10 or 15 years. PTSD, really? It's really
well, we're trying to
some awareness. There's more awareness now than like. I never heard PTSD.
Honestly, it's been around forever. It's just been called different things, shell shock, that kind of thing.
Got it.
Wasn't really discussed, but obviously the number of suicides and the homelessness has brought attention. Like, why is this happening? Because it's it's not their physical state; it's their mental and emotional state. And PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. We're actually trying to drop the D. Because a disorder means like you can never get cured, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really just post-traumatic stress. And anybody can have post-traumatic stress. You could be in a car accident or in a fire and be traumatized. So it should not be stigmatized just for the veteran community. And again, and moral injury just means that you've done something maybe against your moral compass and you feel guilty about it or unsettling about it. So it's actually two different things. And a lot of times it's bundled into one. And that's what the community here is, post-traumatic stress, PTSD. So let's just change it to PTS and realize that there's nothing wrong with them. They've just been in a traumatic environment, and we as a community need to be aware, need to help point them in the right direction, need to make sure they don't isolate and catch them as soon as they get back, so they don't go down the path of drug and alcohol use. And a lot of times they do that because they don't want to go to the VA and get drugged up. So they try to do it on their own, and they also don't want to be a burden to their families. So I think the suicide is because they're taught to be stoic and brave and not to be a burden to anybody else. And unfortunately, they turn to that as a solution, which is now something that we're trying to avoid. So again, catching them early, I think, is the key, and that's what this conference is about. And people don't realize, they may not have somebody in their family member, but we came across each other at a VFW in Rocky Point.
We did.
Because we have so many veterans, especially on Long Island, some of your clients are indeed veterans, right?
So that's actually true. A lot of my clients are veterans, but we'll get back to that. So what is this event? Talk to me about this event that you're doing. Is it for veterans only? Because I know and a lot of things that you and I discuss is we don't know who our veterans are. We don't. When we're in the airport and we're in a restaurant and we see somebody in military uniform, we go over to them and we say thank you for our service. We buy them a meal. We do something just to say thank you because we're so grateful for what they do for us. They lay their lives down on the line for us. They sacrifice their family, their well-being, their comfortableness for us to be comfortable and for our families. So we don't know who our veterans are because once they come home, they take off that uniform. They're, it's just regular Joe in his civilian clothes.
Right.
So we don't know. So tell us about this event a little bit more. Is it for veterans only? What kind of resources are going to be there? Who can attend?
Well, it's actually for everyone, 16 and older,
Okay.
I would say, because the subject matter might be sad at times. We have about 24 job and resource exhibitors. People like the Suffolk County Police Department looks to hire veterans. Helmets to hard hats looks to hire veterans. So we're trying to have, and then of course we have resources on housing and education and mental state. Pause for Wars is one of our exhibitors, for example.
I wish I would have known about that because I would have had a table there because we're always looking for somebody to join my team. I'm always looking for somebody to join my team that has a heart and wants to give back. And it would really, so moving forward, if you know anybody who's looking for a change of career, please definitely think about us. That would be great.
Absolutely. There's
Okay.
actually a lot of organizations that would love to hire veterans. And again, I think just the information has not gotten to them quick enough. And so we as a community, for privacy reasons, we don't get a list of who's coming back, obviously. But if your neighbor went off to join the military, you probably know when they're coming back, right? Your mom and dad might tell you. They might have some ribbons on the tree out front. Oh. So you're the eyes and ears. So we encourage everyone to come. Veterans, veteran families, families of those serving currently, and the community at large, especially business leaders like yourself, because you now know if you need an employee, you can give me a call and say, Rosemarie, maybe let's post it on social media. We started a Facebook page, Military Families of Suffolk County, New York, and I encourage everyone to go on there and join. And if you have a need or you have something, if a veteran that needs something, you could post it anonymously. If you have a job, you're looking for to hire a veteran, post it. If you have any opportunities, events that you think veterans can benefit for, post it. I mean, I'd hope to get that up to 10,000 members, so that we as a community can collectively try to change the dynamics. I think they need to know that we really do care. I think maybe they think we don't,
No, yeah, and we do, and we don't say it enough, and we don't have the opportunity to say it enough. How often do you see somebody? I mean, we're not near a military base on Long Island. I mean, Fort Hamilton is really.
Well, there's a 106 out east.
Okay.
And then, so,
but we don't really run into
absolutely.
Our servicemen and women in uniform to say thank you. We really don't.
Right.
That's why the the Veterans Days parades are big, just to say thank you. I was always a big volunteer and donor to the VFW in Amityville because it was right down the block from my office. It was just it felt like it is the right thing to do. It didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And the more that I could give, I would. But so back to that, we don't have the opportunity to really say thank you. But you're doing something unique, and you talk about it at our business events. You're putting together care packages for our military men and women.
Well, one of the things that the Bluestar Moms or organization does is we send care packages to those who are overseas, serving overseas. We actually have a packing coming up on May 18th. And the reason for that is that if you're in the middle of nowhere, having a Band-Aid or a bar of soap, a snack, seems like a little bit of home. So we're trying to send them a little bit of home. And not everybody has family members that are going to send them stuff. And it's actually expensive to send a box to South Korea or
definitely.
Yeah, so we do that. It's kind of just to let them know they're not forgotten.
What do you need for this packing? What kind of donations would you like, and how do we get them to you?
Well, the conference is Saturday, and it's free. So, and we're even giving you a free box lunch. So how's that?
Oh, that's amazing. And
we're asking people, and since it's free, if you just go into your cupboards and anything that's high protein snacks,
non-perishable, obviously.
canned goods if they have what do you call it, flip top.
Okay.
Travel size toiletries like toothpaste and deodorant and shampoo and things like that. Socks, knit hats in the winter, things like that you would appreciate. A box of Band-Aids, will divvy them up, things like that.
So the basic necessities that we take for granted.
Think if you were going
every
camping,
day.
what would you bring?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So if anybody it's not limited to what's in your cupboard. You could actually go shopping
absolutely.
and send socks and things to the Suffolk County Bluestar Moms. Or if you're not local and you're in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio, I'm sure there's a Bluestar Mom group there, right?
Absolutely.
So look out for your Bluestar Moms, because they are really carrying the burden for us. And they could get the packages to our military servicemen and women. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that, and we really appreciate your daughter's service, and and everybody's service for that matter. So the event is free. It's Saturday. It's Saturday the 27th from 10 to 2:30.
10 to 2.
10 to 2. Everybody's getting a boxed lunch. Anybody could attend, but you would like if we could pre-register, right?
Absolutely. That's why we have a head count.
And how do they do that?
If you Google Eventbrite, Veterans Conference, The Journey Home, it'll come right up.
Okay. That's amazing. I'll be there. I know I'll be there, and a couple other folks in our business group will be there. So that's amazing. Back to the veterans and me helping veterans. I've always been passionate about helping veterans, and my father-in-law, in fact, is a retired serviceman. He was in the Navy. He has VA benefits,
right?
And they were struggling. And I said, Pop, you're eligible for other benefits through Medicare. You could go on I know you have VA benefits and you love going to the VA, but God forbid something happens to you. Where are they going to take you to the hospital? They're not going to drive you out to the VA. They're going to take you to the local hospital where you only have original Medicare. So what I did was I put him on a Medicare Advantage plan, on a give back plan. Mm. So he was getting, I think, $76 a month back in his Part B. And he had coverage for if he didn't use the VA, if something happened. Mm-hmm. So I did a little more research on it, and I found that a lot of our veterans who aren't on CHAMP or TRICARE just have original Medicare and VA benefits where they can go to the VA for treatments. And I said, there's this huge gap in coverage. And there's other benefits that, for instance, like the Part B give back, extra dental, and over-the-counter card. These things the vets don't know about.
Right.
So when I found out about this, you and I happened to bump into each other, that you had a table for the Bluestar Moms, I had a table for Medicare. And so many of these vets that we spoke to had no idea about this Part B give back or these other things, and it wouldn't disrupt their VA benefits.
Right.
They were excited about it. They actually invited me to the Post to meet with them during their monthly meeting to talk to the vets about these extra benefits. So it was definitely interesting. But it's amazing what you do, what your daughter does. I commend you and your daughter, and thank you so much. Again, Rosemarie's event is Saturday the 27th of April. Anthony, expedite this podcast. It's free. You get lunch. Support our veterans. And if you can't attend, I expect you guys to send Rosemarie and other Bluestar Moms donations for this definitely worthwhile cause, so she could get these packages to our troops overseas. Thank you so much, Rosemarie. Anything you want to say before you leave?
No, thank you, James. I mean, just like most veterans didn't know about your service, which should almost be a given because it's a no-brainer. It's just there's so much information that we as a community can share to our veterans, and the first step is to going to events like the one we're having at SUNY Farmingdale on Saturday, our Veterans Conference. So let's help them come home and make them feel welcome. So
Amen.
Thank you so much.
The first step is showing up, guys. So let's show up for Rosemarie and our vets just like they show up for us every day. And I'm sure they don't feel like getting out of bed and serving every day, but they have no choice. So thank you again, and thank you, daughter, please. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, James.
Anytime.